Hey guys, it's Evan and Harrison from the Wildlife Brothers, and today we're out here in eastern Pennsylvania doing some birding. Now, it's early spring, which is a really exciting time to be a birder, because it means that a lot of our favorite bird species are making their way back up here for the warmer summer season. Now, in today's episode, we would like to take you guys back to our recent trip to southern Florida, in which we got the opportunity to film with a number of birds, including many in a family called passerines, which are the perching birds. Some of these guys were species that were very familiar to us, some of them were species that we've never featured before. So, without further ado, these are the passerines of southern Florida. Of the many avian species we encountered on our Florida trip, one stood out as easily the most common, the boat-tailed grackle. This species gets its name from its trademark keel-shaped tail, and the males stand out from most other passerines due to their beautiful iridescent coloration. Boat-tailed grackles are a coastal species and frequent saltwater marshes and swampland in the southeastern United States. Like most grackle species, these guys are active foraging omnivores, preying on a variety of insects, small fish, amphibians, fruit, and grains. Boat-tailed grackles have an incredibly distinct, shrill call, and whenever we were out exploring, their melodic chatter was often the first thing we'd hear. The call of the boat-tailed grackle wasn't the only iconic call we encountered, though. Equally as recognizable was that of the fish crow. Fish crows are remarkably similar to their more widespread counterpart, the American crow, though fish crows are typically smaller and more slender. Apart from their size, the easiest way to distinguish them from other corvid species is by their call, which is more high-pitched than nasally than others. Found along the majority of the east coast of the US, these guys primarily inhabit coastal beaches and waterways, and will also flock around inland water sources. As their name would suggest, fish crows feed on fish, crustaceans, and aquatic invertebrates mostly, though they will feed on fruits and seeds occasionally. Though these species were very common to see, they still made for awesome finds on our adventures. One of the great things about birding is that virtually anywhere you go, you can find familiar species, and for us, Florida was no exception. Even after traveling over 1,000 miles and to a completely new ecosystem, we still encountered many species that we find right in our own backyard, which made the adventure all the more enjoyable. Seeing familiar species in different ecosystems is a perfect way to see how the food web functions there, and getting a glimpse into the southern Florida ecosystem through the lens of common backyard birds was truly a fascinating experience. We managed to catch up with many familiar species from back home while in the field in Florida, and chief among them was the belted kingfisher. This species is remarkably widespread, ranging across most of North America and through parts of Central America as well. They live almost entirely around inland water sources, where they hunt for fish, amphibians, crustaceans, and reptiles. Belted kingfishers are passive foragers, meaning they will sit and wait for prey to become available, at which point they will dive into the water to capture their target. Seeing this species is always a privilege, and getting to see them so far from where we normally find them was very exciting. Though we did encounter many species that are common residents in our home area, the warm climate and healthy ecosystems of Florida attract many fascinating passerine species that we do not see up north very frequently. One of these birds is the great crested flycatcher, one of the most widely distributed flycatchers in North America. They spend their winters in the southeastern United States and through Central America, but during the summer they can be spotted all over the continent. As their name would suggest, the great crested flycatcher is an adept insect specialist. They will position themselves high in the canopy of the trees, and as soon as an insect flies by, they will swoop down and catch it right out of the air. Flycatchers were not the only migratory birds we caught up with in Florida, however. We also came across two species of warblers, members of a diverse family of passerines found throughout the Americas. The Yellow-rumped Warbler is named for the characteristic yellow feathers seen on its backside, and can be found all over North and Central America. It is actually one of the most abundant warbler species, and will spend winters catching insects and other invertebrates throughout Florida. The other species we encountered was the palm warbler, which is a much less widely distributed cousin of the yellow-rumped warbler. The palm warbler overwinters in Florida and along the Gulf of Mexico, and then migrates directly to its breeding range in eastern and central Canada. Though their range is smaller, we found them to be quite abundant in the region where we were exploring, and we were able to observe them hunting for insects along the ground and in the leaf litter on many occasions. All of these birds were new subjects for us, and it was a treat to film some species that we rarely see back in Pennsylvania. One of the most surprising encounters of our Florida birding expeditions was actually with a species we have filmed before, the pileated woodpecker. What made this encounter so unique was the behavior that this guy displayed while we observed him. It is incredibly unusual to see any woodpecker, especially a pileated, come to the ground, but while exploring in a stand of cypress swamp, we saw exactly that. This guy was drilling into a fallen cypress limb right at the surface of the water, and he was so engrossed in the endeavor that he hardly even recognized our presence, which afforded us some incredible shots of what is otherwise quite a difficult subject. The pileated woodpecker is mostly insectivorous, feeding on a variety of insects including ants and wood-boring beetles. This guy was searching for insect larvae in the decaying wood by drilling holes into the bark with his powerful beak. Woodpeckers are able to do this thanks to specialized neck muscles that allow them to peck up to 20 times per second, and spongy bone in the skull that absorbs much of the impact. These adaptations allow pileated woodpeckers to access prey items that other birds cannot reach, and makes them a fascinating species to observe in action. Getting such a clear look at a pileated woodpecker was a highlight of our Florida birding adventures, and was definitely an encounter that we did not expect to have. In our experience, filming passerines can actually be quite a challenge, because these guys are incredibly dynamic. They're almost always moving when they're out in the environment. Now, luckily for us, Florida has such an incredible diversity of birds that we were afforded many opportunities to get them on camera. So we would love to know what your favorite species was, so be sure to tell us about it in the comments down below, and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed overall. However, passerines weren't the only birds we were able to film on our Florida trip. We actually got a number of avian species on camera, and some of them you can't see anywhere else. So if you're excited for all of that content, be sure to subscribe to the Wildlife Brothers now so you don't miss out on any of our new videos coming very soon. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.